So very good afternoon to one and all. And on behalf of Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida. And we welcome you all on the public lecture on cancer that we are organizing on the occasion of World Cancer Day. Every year on 4th February, World Cancer Day is being celebrated. So today's in this lecture session, we have a great panel members and a speaker, Dr. Sandeep Kumar, the Director of AIIMS Bhopal, and we have a Dr. Selvamurthy sir as a panelist, Dr. B.C. Das sir. Dr. Selvamurthy sir is a chairman of Amity Institute of Research and Innovation, and also Chancellor of Amity University, Chhattisgarh. We have Dr. B.C. Das sir. He is a chairman and the director of Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research and Dean of Health and Allied Sciences at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida. We have another panel member, Dr. Subhrajit Biswas. He is a Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. He works on liver cancer. We have Dr. Simran Tandon, professor at Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. She works on breast cancer as well as on cancer stem cell. We have Dr. Manoj Garg. Dr. Manoj Garg is working on pancreatic cancer as well as on blood cancer. Dr. Manoj is an associate professor and Ramalingaswami Fellow at Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. We have Dr. Pallavi Agarwal. She is associate professor at Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. She is also Ramalingaswami Fellow, and she is working on breast cancer as well as on ovarian cancer. So I welcome you all in this public lecture on cancer. So with this, I invite Dr. Manoj Garg to moderate this session. So Dr. Manoj Garg.
Thank you, Dr. Dhruv. Good afternoon to everyone. You are most welcome today in the World Cancer Day lecture. With the blessing of Honorable Founder President, sir, our dynamic Chancellor, Dr. Atu Chauhan ji, Vice Chancellor ma'am, we at Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research are organizing a highly informative and enlightening talk, none other than Dr. Sandeep Kumar, on the occasion of World Cancer Day, under the kind guidance of Professor B.C. Das sir and Selvamurthy sir. Dr. B.C. Das is a renowned cancer biologist and have done a major work in HPV and diagnosis and prevention of the cervical cancer. May I request Professor B.C. Das sir to say a few words on the World Cancer Day.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Manoj. And at the outset, I welcome all the audience, all the panelists in this that you are seeing, and above all, today's guest speaker or the guest honor is Professor Dr. Sandeep Kumarji, who is, a bit later, Dr. Manoj will introduce. He is a renowned surgeon, and he was the founder director of the Bhopal AIMMS, All India Institute of Medical Science, Bhopal, and I know him for a long time. We have been in the cancer task force in the ICMR for more than 1.5 decades. So he has been a very famous surgeon, and he has contributed significantly in the field of cancer treatment and research. So we are fortunate to have him, and I welcome you, Dr. Sandeep, for your time, and you kindly agreed to deliver this talk. So I welcome all other audience and my colleagues and other faculty and other members of the Amity fraternity. And so on this very special occasion. The day, you know, it's very important that it is a Cancer Day, and this is the institute which has, though its name is a molecular medicine and stem cell research, but major research is on cancer. More than 12 faculty are on, out of 15 faculty, 12 faculty are on cancer, major cancer that are highly prevalent in India. And that is with the blessings of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, and the dynamic Chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhanji, and our Madam Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla. So with these, their blessings, we could start this institute some 5-6 years back, and it is one of the flagship department or the institute of the Amity University, and we have all the facility and state-of-the-art lab, as well as including all the research and the equipment facility, and we have the frontier course in this line, the MSc in Cancer Biology and PhD programs. But most importantly, on this occasion of the World Cancer Day, so it is important to understand this is for the awareness, not much talk of the research, but to understand that prevention is better than cure. We know if you can prevent this cancer, so it is, then you do not come into, and this is one of the disease which is a untreatable rather, but it is treatable if it is detected early. So it is the second most the leading cause of death after the cardiovascular, and of the non-communicable diseases, diabetes, cardiovascular, cancer. And globally, it is the one of the this is the most the important disease that which is taking over the cardiovascular disease in the developed countries. But it is very soon, the Lancet has done the survey, and it is found that it is overcoming the cardiac disease in the developed countries, and it is very soon it will be the similar conditions in the developed countries in our India or any other countries in the Southeast Asian region. And this is because of this huge exposure of the pollutions and uncontrolled, all these contamination, pesticides and use. I do not have much time to say about these things, but this has led to the exposure, and it will be sooner. It has been the Globocon, according to Globocon, that 2030, the every second individual will be, it is WHO's also, that every second individual by 2030 would be suffer from cancer. So you can imagine the extent of the problem. It will be the leading cause of death in the whole world or the globally. And the next 20 years, India's cancer is going to be double, and it will be epidemic, and soon it will be the cancer capital of the world. So it is important to realize, but we can prevent it, or it can go for early detection. So cancer is curable if it is detected early. So it is this day, this is the 4th February. Why 4th February has been taken as the World Cancer Day, for the awareness, for the early detection, prevention and treatment, diagnosis and treatment, so that prevention is most important. So that is why awareness is important. And this year's theme, the 2021 theme, is that we and together we can overcome, or together we can reduce the burden of the cancer or the cancer risks. So that is what the slogan of this year, that we can, together we can reduce the burden of cancer or the cancer risk. And this was done in 4th February in 2000 in Paris. There was a World Cancer Summit Against Cancer for the new millennium held in Paris in 4th February 2000. And that time a charter was signed in the Charter of Paris Against Cancer, by Director General of UNESCO as well as the French President Jacques Chirac at that time. It was in 2000, and since then it has been observed as throughout the world as the World Cancer Day. And this was, and it is a global initiative, or the initiative for the led by the UICC, Union of International Cancer Control. So it was earlier Union Against Cancer Control, so it has been changed as name as UICC, so Union of International Cancer Control. So this has been the, this is how the 4th February has been decided or taken globally as the Cancer Day, All Cancer Day, or it can say we can say the Cancer Awareness Day. So with these few words, I welcome all the audience and the panelists and the today's speaker, the renowned cancer surgeon, Professor Dr. Sandeep Kumar ji. And I now invite Dr. Manoj Kumar to introduce Professor Sandeep Kumar.
Sir, before introduction, may I request Dr. Selvamurthy sir to say few word on the behalf of Amity University, Research, Innovation and Foundation.
So I invite Dr. Professor Selvamurthy, who is our mentor for this department coming into existence. He was always associated with our institute, and he is the great driving force behind it. Of course, our Honorable Founder President is there and others, but then immediate next door, and he is the very close to us, and he is the most our close mentor to day-to-day activity he monitors, and I welcome him to speak few words before the speaker speaks. He is our president of the ASTIF, Amity Science, Technology and Innovation. All the science and technology comes under his purview to look after, and all these science, and Amity is known for research and innovation driven university. He is the wholesale authority of that, and he has spent more than 40 years in DRDO as a chief. So from there, after retirement, he has joined here, and he has shaped the science and innovations in this Amity University.
Thank you.
He's a great person and great scientist.
Thank you,
Dr.
Raj.
For
Thank you
having your time for us to speak few words. Okay.
First of all, let me also join Dr. Das in welcoming Dr. Sandeep Kumar, a great surgeon of our country, whom we are all very proud of. And he is a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons, because very few people have this fellowship of Royal College of Surgeons. And his Ph.D. is also from Wales, one of the another internationally well-known, top-ranking Wales. So he obtained his Ph.D. from here. Such a great person is here today to deliver the guest lecture. So it's a great honor for us, Dr. Sandeep Kumarji, to welcome you, and also all the participants who have joined us today on behalf of Founder President Dr. Ashok Chauhan, and also the Chancellor Dr. Atul Chauhan, and on my own behalf, and on behalf of every member of family, I welcome the distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Sandeep Kumar, and also all the participants here. Why do we celebrate World Cancer Day? Because first we want to create awareness. So, the cancer is a disease like any other problem, but it's a very important problem to address. So we want to create that awareness that it is a controllable risk factors are there for cancer. Not that you cannot control, you can prevent cancer. So we are looking at how do we prevent, how do we avoid carcinogens, how do we avoid and control the risk factors who are leading to the cancer, for example, smoking, tobacco, hereditary predisposition. And so all these are very, very important things to prevent. So we want to create awareness. It is treatable, it is curable. So if you diagnose it early, that we can provide the right kind of treatment, like surgeon, like Sandeep Kumarji can operate the cancerous growth, and the oncologist can treat them. So there are methods now available. The lifespan is increasing even if you are diagnosed cancer. If you are detected early, the lifespan is still further. So early diagnosis is the next step. One is creating awareness. The second is to have early diagnosis, because one can also identify the symptoms oneself, like breast cancer, for example. One can always palpate the breast and then see how whether it is leading to any cancerous growth, and such ideas we want to propagate, early diagnosis. And also the treatment. Now there are treatments are available, so don't worry, because if you are worried too much, then your death is coming closer. So the psycho-neuroimmunological axis is going to play an important role, and then progression of the disease will be much faster. So we also need to look at the treatment, and there are treatments available: surgical removal, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. All these have reached a very high stage, and then the lifespan after diagnosis also has gone up now. In WHO, 17 people die per minute due to cancer. That's very huge burden. 17 in every minute, 17 people dying due to cancer. And the leading, the cause of death due to non-communicable disease is this cancer, next to perhaps cardiovascular disease. And 70% of cancers are preventable. So this again, I want to see. I want to tell you it's controllable risk factors. So you can prevent the disease itself. So I won't take a long time because you are going to listen to a specialist. But then Amity has developed a cancer cluster, knowing the importance of this particular disease. So we have created a cancer cluster. This is the first cluster we have created, and Dr. Das is spearheading, and chief coordinator is Dr. Dhruv Kumar, who is connecting all the people working in cancer together. So he is there, and also everyone. That's Biswas is working on liver cancer. So Pallavi is working on the pancreatic cancer. Manoj. So every one of them, Dr. Das has been able to put a big group of about 20 faculties working on cancer. He himself is father of the HPV in the country. He worked with the Nobel laureate who got Nobel Prize for the HPV, human papillomavirus. So such a kind of strength is there today, and we want to build partnership with Dr. Sandeep Kumar ji, who is well-known cancer biologist. And Amity is working on very important area, Dr. Sandeep ji, and we are working on a triple conjugate, which is a known anti-tumor agent, curcumin, and folate. Together, we have created a triple conjugate, which we are attacking cancer stem cell, not just cancer cell, cancer stem cell, so that the recurrence doesn't happen again. So, and we are working on biomarkers, we are working on epigenetic factors and genome engineering, CRISPR-Cas. We are working on CRISPR-Cas to look at how do we do the gene editing and also try to look for a remedy. And immunotherapy is also, we are looking at this. So a lot of activities are happening, and I must compliment every one of you who are here: Simran Tandon, Biswas, Dhruv, Pallavi, Manoj, and all others who are connected with this Professor Das. So with this, I welcome you all, and now I hand it over to
Dr. Manoj.
Manoj, we introduce the speaker and start the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to introduce our speaker of today. So Dr. Sandeep Kumar is not only famous in India, but outside also for performing the surgery. So he is kind of, very famous surgeon all over the world. And earlier, sir was the founder director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Bhopal. Sir is an alumnus of Allahabad University, where sir received MBBS. And then sir have done masters in surgery from Motilal Nehru Medical College. And then sir have received this FRC from Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh and PhD from University of Cardiff, Wales, which is itself an accomplishment in the field of surgery. So sir is kind of master in the surgery. So for the surgery, you need a state-of-art skills. That's what sir has. And he is a scientific advisor and core member of Research Grant Review Committee at Indian Council of Medical Research, and sir has conducted more than 10 major research projects in terms of cancer biology and its epidemiology. And sir has been a collaborator with many international universities like Manitoba, and he also extensively work at Cardiff Breast Cancer Clinic. And sir has published several articles in the field of breast cancer and awarded with National Medical Science Academy. He got various awards from AIMMSCR, and sir is currently chief editor of many journals, including the Indian Journal of Surgery. And sir has published more than 200 research papers and textbook. And sir not only worked in the cancer field, but also work in the trauma, where when somebody get an accident, they need to get surgery to repair the damaged organ or bones or any other thing, which is kind of, major blessing for the people who recover from the accident. So where sir has published quite huge number of paper that has a social impact. And not only that sir is surgeon, but he also written a famous book named as Rag Georgian. So sir is kind of multi-talented. So now may I request Dr. Sandeep Kumar to make us educated about cancer. Thank you very much, sir. Your experience will help us to understand it more better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Manoj.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, panelists, to Professor B.C. Das, and my gratitude to Dr. Selvamurthy for saying such nice words. And Dr. B.C. Das is an old friend, so he knows a lot about me. A lot has been said. I only express my heartfelt gratitude for towards the panelists today, the Vice Chancellor, the Chancellor Chauhans, the Chairman, Dr. Selvamurthy, the Head of the Department, Dr. B.C. Das, fellow panelists, Subhrajit Biswas, Pallavi, Dhruv Kumar, Dr. Tandon, and all of you here. So my regards to you and my gratitude. This lecture has been prepared keeping in mind that this is a public lecture and there are about 2,000 attendees or maybe more. There are some on my behalf and many on your behalf. So it's pretty simple. As Dr. Selvamurthy has said, that they are in a big way in cancer research. You are working on genomics, you're working on a triple conjugate using curcumin and other conjugates to fight the cancer stem cell. So you're all very experienced panelists. So please do stop me. Let it not be a monologue from my side. Let it be a dialogue. Let's try and convey, but the entire tone and the entire script of my talk in the next 45 minutes, because I think we've already lost about half an hour. So maybe I'll try and finish. Is that okay, Dr. B.C. Das, Dr. Manoj?
Yeah.
5 minutes or 60 minutes, whatever.
No, but it will be 30-40 minutes would be all right.
You would keep judging your audience and you would give me a little, cue or some kind of a ring or tell me that it's time I shut up, and I will try and sum up and finish in the next 2-3 minutes. I've got few people sitting at my back. Does that bother anybody?
No, it's okay.
That's okay. Are you able to see my slides? I'm sharing my slides. I'm sharing my screen. Are you able to see that?
Not yet.
No, sir, you have to share it once again.
Not yet. So please allow me to share my screen.
Yes, we are able to see Dr. Sandeep Kumar ji.
Brilliant. So do you want me to raise the science of the talk, or you want me to raise the understanding of the talk? I have kept it very simple for everybody, nursing students, physiotherapy students.
Yeah.
BSc
That's fine. You go ahead with that. It's a simple understanding, and awareness rather.
Right. So first of all, I would say like the UICC, the Union International Contre le Cancer, now the International Union that used to be against cancer is now Union for Cancer Control. Similarly, the institution in America are no longer calling themselves as cancer institutes. They're calling themselves as anti-cancer institute or cancer control institutes. It's okay to call some hospital like Tata Memorial Hospital as a cancer hospital. So we take cancer patients there and treat them. So let's also try something, Dr. B.C. Das, Dr. Selvamurthy, and from all of our sides, that World Cancer Day as 4th of February should be renamed as World Cancer Control Day, because that's the whole objective. It's not to evangelize cancer, but it is to evangelize the efforts made by people like you who are working to control the cancer. So to my audience, I think I must congratulate you, and I will start calling it from today itself, not World Cancer Day, but the UN. We should write a letter to UN. Dr. B.C. Das, you are that kind of a person.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, Dr. Sandeep Kumar ji, appropriate name, correct?
Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
World Cancer Union.
Yeah, we'll write that. I will write that.
Right, sir. So thank you very much for taking that suggestion that let's call it World Cancer Control Day. I have named my talk as what is new in cancer, what is new in diagnostics, and what is new in treatment, and which will cover almost everything. The diagnostics are extremely important because, and what is new in treatment. So that's how we will begin. So this is the standard thing in cancer to come and define anything. And when we define cancer, we'll have these 5 domains. What is it? Why does it occur? Whom does it affect? Who's the one who's affected? How to treat it? How to prevent? That is primary prevention. And if it has happened, how to control it? What does the word control really means? What does the word primary means? And what are the types of prevention, like primary prevention, secondary prevention, tertiary prevention? And nowadays there is a prevention called as primordial prevention. So those are the issues that we'll discuss. And I think the more basic we go, more enlightened we become. So let's start what cancer is. As we know, cancer is an uncontrolled, unchecked growth of a cell or a group of cells that becomes a parasite on the body, and it starts eating up all the body's nutrition. 10 to the power 3 cells or 10 to the power 6 cells would make about a gram of a tissue, 1 cubic centimeter of a tissue. If we take the density of cancer as 1, it's around 1.2. The packed cancer cells actually sink down the bottom in distilled water at 4 degrees centigrade. But if you have 10 to the power 13 cells, the tumor would weigh around 1 kilogram or 1 cubic decimeter, and it would consume so much nutrition that the body will be dilapidated and there will be death. So collection of newly formed cells which have got nutrition drawing from the host body, and our body has a programmed cell death. And if the oldie cells are not dying, there is a failed apoptosis. The programmed cell death is apoptosis. It becomes cancer. The term has been neoplasm, but I call it both a neoplasm and an oldoplasm. So it is both. It is failed apoptosis, it is neoplasm, and it is oldoplasm. Here is the cartoon, which is not my original. This is the normal cell. There has to be a genetic change for this cell to become either a cancer stem cell or by itself start dividing. And as you can see, the cytoplasm here, which was more pink here, has become bluish. The moment it is bluish, you mean that there is more mitotic activity there. and there's more, and that is why it has been shown as blue. And there is a conglomeration of cancer cells, and cancer cell is a mitotic division, and it has been shown here in this picture. And as you can see in this epidermis, which is a 5-layer normal epithelial area, there are these conglomeration of abnormal cells. And when these cells start infiltrating, directly spreading, and it breaks the basement membrane like it has done here. Here you can see the basement membrane is intact. This is cancer in situ. The basement membrane is now gone, and this is invasive carcinoma. That's the morphological difference. Now the word cancer, let's discuss the word cancer. I'm aware that they're not. The word cancer is a blunderbuss term. It entails all types of uncontrolled growth. So far, whatever I have said, that cancer is an uncontrolled growth, it's a parasite on the body, and it entails the word cancer. It is all under the garb of one word, cancer. So cancer, when you start calling it carcinoma, then it is a slightly different disease morphologically. And what is cancer morphologically? It is defined from the tissue of its origin. So far, all the malignant material that comes from a lining epithelium, which is skin or mucosa in the GI tract, mucosa in the urinary tract, mucosa in various other glands. So if it arises from the surface epithelium, which can be a squamous epithelium, a non-keratinized squamous epithelium like mucosa, or an adenoepithelium like a columnar epithelium or a glandular epithelium, these are all called carcinomas. When the mesenchymal tissue, the matrix of the body, the joining tissues, the tissues that join one cell to the another cell, that is the mesoderm, the mesenchymal tissue becomes malignant, you call those as sarcomas. And the cancers of the lymphoid tissue are called lymphomas. Cancer of the blood cells, white blood cells mostly, are called leukemias. And those are the 4 major branches of one word, one generic word, cancer. But in stricter terms, cancer means epithelial tumors. So that's what I was referring to. So cancer actually means a malignant growth. From blood, we have leukemias. For lymph nodes and lymphoid tissue, the other name for lymph nodes and lymphoid tissue is reticuloendothelial system. So, our bone marrow again contains both the blood forming cells and the lymphoid tissue. Then what we call as solid tumors. Whatever other tumors are solid tumors. In female, the commonest solid tumor, of course, is breast, cervix, uteri, oral cavity, lung, and stomach. In men, the solid tumors commonly are lung, oral cavity, stomach, colorectal, esophagus, etc. Let's go into the epidemiology of cancer. As was just being referred to by Dr. Das, deaths due to non-communicable disease. Now, I want you to look at, can the audience look at the pointer that I'm putting here, the cursor? Dr. Biswas, can you look at my cursor, where I'm moving my cursor?
Yes, sir, we can see that.
You can see that. Okay, excellent. So there is a triple burden. The triple burden is the total burden of disease, infirmity, and deaths. So the triple burden is from some of the communicable disease, some of the non-communicable disease, and injury has been kept as the third burden. So the total deaths worldwide, around 50 to 60% happen on account of, this is very rough, on account of non-communicable disease. 30 to 40% happen on account of communicable disease. Nowadays, COVID-19 is a very, very important communicable disease that is taking a large death toll. and 8 to 12% of the total death or disease and infirmity burden is on account of injuries. And that's the triple burden defined. Of the non-communicable disease, the number one non-communicable killer disease is vascular accidents. I call it heart attack, brain attack, and foot attack. Wherever there is an end artery, this is, I'm trying making life simple. I can talk very complicatedly, but I'm making it talk sounded simple. There is an end artery where the artery ends right in the brain up there, right at the feet down there, and the coronary arteries that supply the myocardium, the musculature of the heart, they end there. And these arteries get clogged, blocked, atherosclerosed, embolized, thrombosed. There is a death or there is an ischemia of the organ they supply. If it is brain, there is brain ischemia, there can be hemorrhage, there can be brain thrombosis, there can be the disease is known as stroke. If it happens in the heart, if there is just ischemia, it's called angina. If it is death of the myocardial tissue, it's called myocardial infarction. If it is foot, it's called diabetic foot, atherosclerotic foot, and then you have gangrene in the toes, and that is the death of the tissue of the foot. So of all the non-communicable disease, whatever people may say, 60% of the total disease infirmity deaths are on account of vascular accident. At the back of the vascular accident, the two most important accompaniments of a vascular accidents are diabetes, hypertension, and sedentary lifestyle and diet. But diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, and diet are lifestyle issues. Diabetes and hypertension are two diseases, are two biochemical disorders, metabolic disorders that cause atherosclerotic disease. So of the non-communicable disease, the biggest killer is atherosclerotic disease, followed by 10 to 20% rheumatism, followed by mental disorders, which includes suicides, which also includes homicides, civil wars, because that if you take it as a mental disorder, somebody going to kill someone else on account of some little ranjish or disagreement is a kind of a mental disorder. So it doesn't matter where you classify it, but and about, as you can see here, 12% of all non-communicable diseases are cancer in the Western world, and 9% of all non-communicable disease is cancer in India. So I am presenting this from the latest publication in Globocon from the National Center for Disease Informatics and Research, NCDIR, which is the institution of the ICMR of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And according to them, in the world population of 750 crore approximately, 18% of the world population, around 132 crore, lives in India. The prevalence of cancer, that is the number of cases that are prevalent at a given time, are about 20 per lakh population, both male, female, women and children, elderly. Incident, that is new cases occurring per year divided by 1 lakh mid-year population is known as incidence. And incidence is about 10 to 11 cancer patients, cancer cases. Again, cancer includes lymphoma, leukemia, carcinoma, sarcoma, all types of malignant disorders. So new cases in Western countries are about up to 300 to 500 per 100,000. 1 lakh is 100,000. And India, we are extremely, extremely lucky that our cancer incidence again is 80 to 100. It's on a rise. The rise is both real and apparent. The real rise is that people have calculated actually the number of cancer patients are increasing. Why they are increasing, I'll come back to that in a few, in the later part of my talk. There are about 15 lakhs cancer patients, of which about 7 lakhs are in men, 8 lakhs are in women. This is rough, but this is right there in the NCDI data. Incident in 2020 that have occurred in 2020, half of which is death. 7 to 8 lakhs per year die from cancer. And there are about triple the number. So if it is 1.5 million here, 15 lakhs, so you can say 3 million or maybe 4 million patients are living with cancer at any given time in our country. So now you can calculate the load of cancer, you can calculate the cost of cancer, you can calculate the manpower required to cancer. I'm a cancer surgeon, and I, with my best of my effort, giving about 8 or 10 hours a day, am able to treat maybe 1 or 2 cancer patients in a day. There's my colleague, my younger colleague at the moment is operating 1 jaw cancer. He's going to be in theater. I will join him for 2 hours, but he's going to be in theater for 7 hours. There's 1 anesthetist, 2 assistants. We've spent several man hours in counseling him and doing the pre-operative workup, and then we'll do the post-operative workup. So it's the kind of manpower required to treat a stage 3, stage 4 cancer is extremely high, and that is why you need more human resource and economic resource to treat cancer. So now the question comes in everybody's mind whenever we have a patient. I'm being a clinician. You as scientists sitting in your lab, Dr. Pallavi, Dr. Simran, you naturally have this question all the time. You're answering what causes cancer, and you're doing the genetic studies. Somebody's doing epigenetic studies, somebody's studying the genome, somebody's studying the molecular markers, somebody's studying the genetic signatures. But I try and make it understood to the common people by telling them what I call is my Astha channel explanation of cancer, that cancer is an outcome of your prarabdha and your satsang. Now, prarabdha is what you're born with. You're born, you can't change your mother and father. You can't change your date of birth. You can't change your place of birth. I can change my name from Ramji, I can become Robert. I can dye my skin. I can curl my hair. I can dye my hair brown, but I can't change my parents. So the genetic constitution or the genetic predisposition is your prarabdha, and its interplay with the environmental factors, substances like diet, viral environment, bacterial infection, physical environment, chemical environment, carcinogen, social environment, like which will make you take tobacco products, sedentary lifestyle, maybe your spiritual health, and stress, which may dampen your own power to fight cancer, which is known as the innate immunity, are all environmental factors which, when react with the genetic predisposition, and I call them in our own culture as ahar, vyavhar, vichar, vatavaran, and sankraman. Sankraman is infections, and we know about 9 or 10 cancers in human body are caused by sankraman. Human papilloma virus, HCV virus, Kaposi sarcoma, and HIV virus. So even typhoid virus is known to cause, has been implicated in gallbladder cancer. Even a parasitic infection causes bilharziasis in Egypt, causes urinary bladder cancer. So about 9 cancers which have an infective theory, well proven, a theory of infection. So what causes cancer? Cancer is primarily, to a general person, is a genetic disease. It doesn't happen unless there is a genetic change in the normal cell. The normal cell errs in terms of its mitotic division, and there is a genetic change. That change may come through the environmental interaction of the epigenetic factors, or because there is a cancer. Nobody's born with a cancer stem cell, except for those who've got a disease like telangiectasia, D. Brown syndrome, or somebody who's who is janmajat, right from birth, predisposed to cancer. Mostly it is a genetic change which ushers, which unopens, which unfolds during the development. And this unfolds in the presence of a particular environmental carcinogen, which may be anything, and it could be dietetic as well. What is your prarabdha? The prarabdha on which you do research, you have lots of students here. Some of you may be working with Dr. Das, some of you may be working with Manoj, some of you may be working with Pallavi and Simran, and you would be working either on oncogenes. A precursor of an oncogene is known as proto-oncogene. The proto-oncogene again unfurls, kind of turns out to become an oncogene, and it kicks the cells into production. And the examples, the well-known examples of oncogenes are PDGF, SERB2, HRAS, KRAS, the BCR-ABL gene, cyclin D, NMEC. There are host of oncogenes. Don't bother to remember these names whenever you do research. If you do research in colon cancer, you will come to know certain genes. If you do research in many other cancer, you will come to know of gene like HER2/neu and CRB2, etc. Then there are tumor suppressor genes, the genes that they prevent a gene or instability and check the abnormal growth of the cells. So these are the genes that suppress the instability of the cells, like P53, rhabdomyosarcoma gene, the breast cancer, BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene are actually good genes. They're tumor suppressor genes. In their wild form, they're good genes. But when they become mutant, when they change from the natural wild form and become mutant, the P53, the BRCA1 and 2, they they are the checkpoints, and they are unable to do the checking of the abnormal cells that are produced, and the abnormal cells escape the attention of the tumor suppressor gene and the clinical tumor forms. The God has bestowed us with DNA repair genes. Whenever we expose ourselves to environmental carcinogens, we travel to an ozone deficient area, we are exposed to some kind of radiation, we are exposed to we indulge into environmental carcinogens like tobacco using, the body has been provided with DNA repair, and this preserves and repairs the genomic instability. So these are the three areas which, if become altered, a cancer may form. And that is what I call as the genetic predisposition to cancer, or the prarabdha. Now, this is a little cartoon that I like a lot. I have slightly modified it, but this was drawn by a teacher of mine. And this is, here you see three cartoons of three men or women. Here you see is the short arm and the long arm of the cross chromosome. And this guy is blessed. His DNA repair gene is fantastic. He's got his tumor suppressor gene. He's got no oncogene, and he doesn't indulge into any environmental carcinogen. He's born happy, he's born blessed, and he dies at 1995 without cancer. And that's the guy. This is a guy who's protected guy. He indulges, he doesn't go into satsang, he goes into bad sangati. He starts smoking, he's using tobacco, he's a fatty guy, but God has doubly blessed him. He's got a huge tumor suppressor gene, he's got a DNA repair gene, he's devoid of a proto-oncogene, and he smokes till the age of 95, flexes his arms, tells everybody, I smoked and I didn't get cancer. So this is the guy I called as Mr. Protected. And here is a guy, you can see, he's not the one who's going to smile. He's doubly sinned. He's doubly blessed and he's doubly sinned. He has a proto-oncogene, and he is indulging into an environmental carcinogen, and he's the candidate who's likely to get cancer. So that's a simple cartoon I've prepared to teach my students. I don't know, Dr. Das likes such things when I speak, but you may think it's too simplified a model because you're a keen biologist, but somehow Bhudev Das has always encouraged me to show things like this. So what are the environmental factors? I call them karma. You say na jo karam karoge wo bhogoge. So kya karam karoge ki cancer bhogoge? What will really make you more prone to cancer? It's not, as I said, you may be born protected, you may not get cancer, but tobacco, around 40% of the karma-related cancer, the environmental-related cancer, are on account of a single environmental prevalent factor, tobacco. Now, I will come to the story of tobacco because this was discovered much later. Diet, obesity, and alcohol, about 20%. So alcohol at one time was absolved from causing cancer, but nowadays alcohol is considered as an important carcinogen, especially in breast cancer and certain cancer. Similarly, body fat, total body fat, if there is a person who's obese, whose BMI is higher, they are definitely much more prone to cancer. Emotional instability of late from big data analysis, using big data sets, it's known that people who are more labile, who have highly strung personalities, who have less serotonin, who have got less dopamine, whatever you may like to call it, who cannot calm down their minds and psyche, who do not have enough endorphins and kephalins in their system, and their adrenaline is always running around, and the cells are being kicked, they're being kicked. So emotional instability certainly is seen with much higher frequency in those who have cancer. And one more thing here is constipation. Now, constipation is being increasingly by big data analysis epidemiologists is being associated with cancer. If one has constipation, the odds ratios, the hazard ratios for developing cancer in people who have constipation as opposed to those who have extremely regular bowel habit, all their lives, 60 years old. I mean, I'm 67 years old. Am I younger to you, Bhudev Das? Or let's not disclose our age. Your students are here. But I'm certainly younger to him. He's my elder brother. So I know for 67 years of my age, there hasn't been a day in my life that I haven't moved my bowel. I have never been constipated. I'm blessed that way. But I know many of my patients who would not go to loo for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. In Britain, I've known. So the diet of the Queen's commanders in England, because I worked in England and Cardiff, used to be 1/2 kg of beef and 1 bottle of rum and a liter of milk. If you eat beef, milk, and rum, you would not produce any stools because it's all highly digestible. Alcohol is 100% energy and calories. Beef is fully absorbed. So if the dietary constituent of fiber is not there, and these guys who were guarding the Buckingham Palace, wearing a big busby, all 6 feet tall, had a very high incidence of cancer colon. So if you have red meat diet, alcohol, milk, high in poultry, one is, and this was known in Norway, in India, we know Northeast region, the Manipur, etc., has huge cancer incidence, 300, 400 cancer patients per 100,000 population. It's all dietary. It is not genetically. People living in Manipur are not different genetically from people living in other parts of India, maybe certain other like Itanagar or Assam. But Kamrup district and 2-3 districts very high, and it's entirely dietary related. So emotional instability, constipation, dietary related, and acidotic diet. Nowadays, they're saying that if your body pH, which ranges between 7.3 to 7.4, 7.33 to 7.43, which is our own body blood pH, is slightly alkaline. And if you're a little bit acidic, if you're a wee bit acidic, then on a big data analysis, millions of people, those who develop cancer, have a body pH on a large data analysis towards lower side. Then infections, and I don't have to say much. Dr. B.C. Das is the man with HPV virus, which he knows as the back of his hand, and HPV, hepatitis B virus, HIV, Epstein-Barr virus, certain bacteria, one parasite, bilharziasis, are known to cause cancer. Of the chemical pollutants, we know asbestos, we know the story of the chimney boy, we know the story of asbestosis, and we know the chemical carcinogens, and those are being withdrawn from industry. Asbestos sheets are being banned. We're trying to close the coal mines. Yesterday, there was a news that if we produce more electricity from burning coal, we will be losing that many lives in India because of the air pollution and because of the lung cancer, and we all become passive smokers in the area of coal mining area and in the area of thermal power plants. So there are geophysical reasons. If you live in Australia where the ozone is weak, and if you have a white color skin, you're freckled and you've got moles, and so these moles will become difficult moles, that is melanoma, if one gets exposed to sun rays, because the protective ozone is deficient in certain areas. So if you are a beachy person who goes to beach, wants to tan his skin or her skin, and the ozone is deficient, then those are the geophysical reasons. If you live somewhere near Chernobyl, maybe people who live near Bhopal, and at the time when there was gas leakage, some definitely developed cancer. So chemical carcinogens and ozones are the environmental factors, some of which are avoidable, others are unavoidable. Now let's talk of the lovely story of the genetic predisposition. This beautiful lady, she is Angelina Jolie, and this lady is a Hollywood star, and her mother, her Masi, and she had 3 or 4 sisters, and one more sister had developed breast and ovarian cancer. And she, at a tender age of 32, maybe, I think 30, at the age of 32, she's 37, she was 33. Sorry?
33.
Oh, you remember that. Wonderful. I knew that date would come from you. So at the age of 33, she elected and persuaded her doctors to get castration, that is bilateral tubo-oophorectomy and bilateral total mastectomy. And she's living without cancer. And she was heavily BRCA gene 1 and BRCA gene 2 positive. And not only that, she went public. After having bilateral mastectomy and bilateral tubo-oophorectomy, and you remove the tubes also when you do oophorectomy, because you can probably rarely go through an IVF program as well, because they say there are certain elements in the tube, and the cancer, ovary cancer, occurs in the tubes. So I choose not to keep look at the bottom line in blue. I choose not to keep my story private because there are many women like me. And she comes from the clan of Ashkenazi Jews. And Ashkenazi Jews have more prevalence of BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene. So that was Angelina Jolie's story. And she was the one who was very brave, who made her story public. And she was soon joined by this another lovely lady at the age of 28 in 2013. And her name was Caitlin Broadwick. There was nobody in Europe. These two women were from America, both from the west coast of North America. And she also underwent a double mastectomy. And she said, I feel empowered that I made a strong choice. And then she wrote to the then president of America that Myriad Genetics was the company which had the copyright, which had the the license to produce the BRCA1, BRCA2 testing gene kit. And this was made much cheaper by the interference of President Clinton at that time. I think it was Clinton. And the genetic testing from the time, and she took up the crusade, Kathleen Broderick took up the crusade that we should have the right to get the genetic testing done. Earlier to that, people with the family history of breast cancer, mom had breast cancer, Masi had breast cancer, sister had breast cancer, grandmother, Nani ji had breast cancer. But can I get my gene tested? The scientists knew there was a gene called BRCA1, BRCA2, but the cost of gene testing was very high. And this young lady did plead with the president and the American authorities, and the gene testing kit went much cheaper. It's costing around sometimes I've got this test done for 20,000 rupees in India. It is generally done about 70, 80,000 rupees. 2-3 years ago, it was 1.5 lakhs. So it's getting cheaper and cheaper. And if ever you suspect a familial breast cancer, one can get BRCA gene testing. Any questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
We have 10 minutes more, sir.
We have 10 minutes, so I'll try and...
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So that's what Broadway did. Now the tobacco story. See, the tobacco story is such. I'm a third generation surgeon in my family. Somebody said I did my pharmacist. My father did as a pharmacist from Edinburgh. My grandfather went to England, and my son, of course, did his MRCP from England. And when my father was a surgeon, I was a medical student, and it was considered fashionable to smoke while taking ward rounds. I remember in my MS examination, Master of Surgery examination, cigarettes were being served on a tray to the examiners who were actually examining oral cancer patients. My brother-in-law, who was on Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship to Cambridge University, went back to Cambridge University, having done his PhD way back in the 70s, went back there in 1984, and the professor asked me, what change do you see in the physics lab that you worked earlier 20 years ago? And he looked around, nothing has changed. As you know, nothing changed. You go to Trafalgar Square, it's the same old black building, same old red bus running there. And he looked around and he said, one thing that has changed is ashtrays have disappeared. Professors no longer smoke in the corridors of physics department. Now, that's what has happened. And this happened because of these two gentlemen who won the Nobel Prize, Richard Dole and Bradford Hill from the Oxford University. They were the first people to calculate odds ratio from a case control model, from the outcome to exposure. The outcome is lung cancer, oral cancer. In my language, I call it upper aerodigestive tract cancer. And you take, did you smoke? Did you smoke heavily? And if those people say, yes, I did, then those suffering from lung cancer, 95 out of 100 would say, yes, I sinned and I smoked heavily. So 95 upon 100 divided by 5 upon 100 becomes the odds of smoking. And those who do not develop lung cancer, only 10% smoke. So 10 divided by 90 divided by 90 divided by 100. That's the odds ratio or the hazards ratio. Those are the guys. They are two statisticians. They were the members of the Statistical Research Committee who could prove against the strong lobby of the tobacco, the Rothman Company, the Wills Company, who had never allowed this kind of thing to be published. And they published in the British Medical Journal in 1954. And ever since then, the films like Devanand smoking and Dilip Kumar smoking and Sunil Dutt smoking, Main Dhuein Mein Har Kash Ko Udata Chala Gaya, were banned. Only the baddie was smoking, the goodie wasn't smoking. And then the bans came, and then the Public Act came, and the torch law took over, and the whole story of tobacco as a gift. Premchand stories were saying that good tobacco was smelling. Even all smokers, writers, they used to smoke. It all started disappearing. So that's the tobacco story. So the mortality of doctors in rehabilitation, smoking causes lung cancer, was unequally proven. So why doesn't every smoker get lung cancer? This was answered. Now, this is something I want your attention. You all know about odds ratio and causality, the Richard Bradford Hill criteria, or Dr. Richard Doll, who brought the case control model. But another very interesting public health model is known as the Ken Rothman theory, which was enunciated from Boston University School of Public Health. And this is the Rothman's causal pie model. This causal pie model, this is an interesting model. And if you look at it a little bit more, it's the necessary cause and the sufficient cause. Now, this is extremely, extremely interesting. If I finish my talk after you understood this, I would think that I have done a major bit of my talk if this concept can be taken across. I know many of you may be knowing it, but I am given to understand that there are about 2,000 more people hooked on to this channel who are listening to me when I'm speaking this. So friends, what is a necessary cause? Try and read this is, if X is the necessary cause, so the necessary cause is the genetic predisposition. If you are genetically protected and you smoke, you will not get cancer. But if you are genetically protected, you are genetically crooked and you have an oncogene, but you don't smoke, you'll not get cancer. If you're genetically predisposed and you smoke, there is an ominous combination and you get cancer. So if X is a necessary cause of Y, then Y is the outcome. Y is the lung cancer. Then Y necessarily implies X. X does not imply Y will occur. So X is around, the thief is around, the theft hasn't taken place. So X is always around. It's like somebody who's inherited an autosomal recessive gene. So a person won't become a phenotypically abnormal unless there is a recessive gene marries another person with the recessive gene. The sufficient cause is the constellation of factor and its component that if they present, then the Y will occur. Now I will try and explain this. This will become simpler if you look at this. Now, there cannot be tuberculosis unless there is a Mycobacterium tuberculosis is present or there is an exposure to tuberculosis. Crowding, absence of BCG vaccination, poor ventilation, poor nutrition. Take it in the COVID story. If there is no COVID virus, hugging, kissing, not wearing mask, eating in the same thali, drinking in the same glass will not bring COVID. If COVID is present, social distancing, masking, poor nutrition, poor inherent immunity, poor ventilation, absence of vaccination, crowding will cause COVID-19. So TB exposure is the necessary cause and all others are sufficient cause. In COVID prevention, we are doing the sufficient cause theory. Look at this. 1860, the tubercular bacillus was recognized by Robert Koch in 1880. The tuberculin test with the PPD came in 1890. There was a downfall in tuberculosis. The incidence of tuberculosis, the mortality rate per lakh population, this is England and Wales data from the Tuberculosis Registry of England and Wales. This data is from Cardiff because in Clandalk Hospital where I work, there was a great person who, and from where the Cochrane research has come, was working on tuberculosis. Now you can see that there were 300 patients of tuberculosis per 100,000 population much before the TB antibiotic. Corona has come down and we have not been vaccinated. I have not been vaccinated. How many people have been vaccinated? The corona has come down. So simply because of the sufficient cause theory, and the sufficient causes, the people have learned to have distance. People have learned to wear masks. People have improved their immunity. Everybody is using Giloy. Everybody is boosting immunity. Everybody is taking deep breath. So TB vaccine came here, TB antibiotics, streptomycin, inapas, etc. came there, and TB came down. But TB was ever coming down. So unless there is TB, so that's what is prevention today. That is what has to be translated, adopted, and adapted in cancer control program. You have to understand the sufficient cause theory and the necessary cause in cancer control, as we have learned in tuberculosis. You want, I can stop. If you give me 10 minutes, I'll finish with diagnostics. I've dealt with the causality in the simplest possible manner. Try the simple mind people understand what the genetic or the environmental causality is. If you give me 10-15 minutes, I'll finish with diagnosis and treatment very quickly, not go in explanation much.
So there is a problem with our IT. They have committed to the others. So
Okay.
maybe 5 minutes you can complete, and I request the IT to 5 minutes, just briefly you can tell.
I'll just run through the slides.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I'll share the slides with you guys.
We have no problem, but IT has a problem. That's why it is controlled by the IT.
I understand. So tissue diagnosis, staging diagnosis, molecular diagnosis, genetic diagnosis. Genetic diagnosis to attack, to prevent tumor, to control tumor, to genetically attack it by targeted treatments. Molecular diagnosis, because now we have targeted treatments like tyrosine kinase inhibitors, mTOR inhibitors, and many other new targeted treatment, TK inhibitors on the second messenger system, calcium calmodulin system, and wherever. Imaging is done again to stage it. Imaging is done by good old X-rays, ultrasound, computerized X-rays, magnetic resonance, and biological imaging using PET-CT, where you give a sugary dye, and hungry cancer cells grab onto the sugar, and the cancer starts sparkling on the CT scan. Tissue diagnosis, cytopathology by the needle aspiration, histopathology by open or cutting or using a cutting needle, and liquid biopsy is by doing DNA analysis in the blood. Treatments are locally acting, cut away, throw the cancer in the bucket, give it to the pathologist. Radiotherapy is shown here, is radiation given to that particular area. Radiation given in contact with the body is known as brachytherapy. Radiation given from some distance and the beam being focused to the area where the cancer cells are there and being given centrifugally to kill the cancer cells in the perimetry, in the periphery of the cancer, is known as radiotherapy, or EBRT, external beam radiotherapy. Systemically acting treatment is chemotherapy. The word chemotherapy got stuck with cancer treatment because in Dr. Dana-Farber in Boston, who has the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in his name, for the first time used a chemical, nitrogen mustard, that was used in Second World War for the gassing the people by Hitler in gas chambers to kill leukemia. And at that time, he brought this chemical from New York and gave it to children who had white blood and leukemia, and he cured certain children, or at least had remission in those children. And since then, it has been known as chemotherapy. No longer it is chemotherapy. All cancer killing drugs are pharmaceuticals. They are proper IP or Brit BP or whatever country they are produced with. So, but it is the word chemotherapy. Hormonal treatment is given, especially in breast and prostate cancer. Some hormonal treatment is given in thyroid cancer. Immunotherapy is in its infancy. except for melanoma, urinary bladder cancer. Immunotherapy at the moment is not very successful. Targeted treatments are emerging each day. We have a new targeted treatment. When I say each day, it is really each day. It's not an exaggeration. And genetic treatments are also being tried. We just heard Dr. Selvamurthy talking about a triple conjugate therapy. The intention of treatment is cure, salvage, palliate. Cure is when my patients come to me, I say a third of them I can cure, or they have a cancer. I mean, I don't say I can cure. I'm nobody to cure. It's the God who cures, and it's the disease in the state. But a third of the patients are those who get cured when they go to a specialist. In third, we just salvage. In 1/3, we palliate. At the current scenario in India, when there is no epidemiological downstaging of the cancer, when we take cancer as a public health exercise, like breast cancer, mammography is mandated in America and in Western and developed countries, where every woman has to go every 2 years, get a biplanar mammogram done of a craniocaudal view and a mediolateral view, which is a brachy X-ray of contact X-ray of the breast, and you detect breast cancer. And they have been downstage all their breast cancer. 60 to 80% is a radiological breast cancer. There's no clinical breast lump, no longer in Sweden and Germany. All women are detected to have breast cancer by their radiologists, by their screening clinics. They don't detect a lump while they are bathing, or their mother or their gynecologist don't detect a lump incidentally. There are no such patients. Prevention and control, environment I've talked, vaccine for cancer may come one day. Screening is the epidemiological method of controlling cancer. Certain medicines will control cancer, and those medicines are there. I'll not talk about it. Genetic control has been there. I think that should be enough. I could talk about other cancers also, but I think I have made my point of what the diagnostic. I've shortened my slide. There was, I can keep talking about this subject. This has been my subject. I can also talk about individual cancer, but like cervix cancer. But I think I'll stop here, and I'll let you ask 1 or 2 questions if you have time, or if you have, if you want to do that, or if you would free me, I would be very happy. My thanks once again to all the panelists, and I would like panelists to ask me at least some questions. Simran, Pallavi, Manoj.
Thank you so much. Excellent talk, excellently covered. I know paucity of the time because of our IT has committed somewhere, so they have to, because otherwise we have time, but then it was unfortunate, but we could not, but then we'll see if it is 2-3 minutes. Dr. Dhruv and Dr. Manoj, you can take
we will have to bind up this session because now it's a 4:22. We'll have to complete by 25.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I just will ask one. It's a fantastic lecture, Professor Sandeep Kumar, that you made it so simple. You know, everyone can understand the etiology and the prevention, medical management. I just want to ask one different type of question. Do you believe in quantum healing and spontaneous regression for cancer? Because when I read that Deepak Chopra's quantum healing, I was wondering how this spontaneous regression can happen. You are a spiritual person as well. So can you just throw light on this?
I just had read a paper which I believe there's a patient who was being treated by a doctor, and I think it's a Lancet publication. I'll try and send it to Dr. B.C. Das because he's on my WhatsApp. And this guy had stage 4 cancer on a PET CT. I think it was cancer cervix or something, spread in bones and multiple tissues. And this guy got corona, got heavily infected by COVID-19. And COVID-19 evoked some kind of an immune response. He got cured from COVID-19. He went to his doctor for his cancer treatment. He's free from pain. He gets another PET CT done, and the cancer disappeared.
yes.
So there are stories, there are anecdotes. Elephants don't develop cancer. I have had about, from my childhood, we've had about 10 dogs in our house. And I remember my father operated a small Alsatian bitch. She had a breast cancer. Then, because they have teats right from the groin to axilla, and that lady dog had about 3 or 4 cancers. My dog had a melanoma. Another dog of mine. So out of 10 dogs, the dogs developed cancer. 3 developed cancer in my house. And then I read about animal cancers. And elephants don't have cancer. Huge research required to know why elephants don't develop cancer.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for this very informative talk. So now may I request Dr. Pallavi Agarwal to have both of hands, please.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sandeep Kumar, sir, it was a pleasure listening to you, and the way you have simplified the concepts of cancer, the cancer karma, and to know about your diet, to know about the carcinogens. It would be really helpful for the students. A lot of our bachelor's, master's, PhD students are here with us, and we are really thankful for your time. And we will definitely want to have you again to have more specific on some topics like cervix cancer, breast, ovarian cancer, and with your expertise we would definitely want to have you again. And due to paucity of time, we couldn't really interact much. We all had been waiting to interact with you, but we would like to have you personally soon. So on behalf of Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine Stem Cell Research, I thank you all the panelists, coordinators, Selvamurthy sir, our dear founder president sir, and the vice chancellor ma'am, chancellor sir, for their blessings and guidance. And thank you, Das sir, for motivating us to conduct this webinar. And also lastly, thank you to our speaker for an excellent talk. All the attendees, participants, thank you very much. And now I think with the permission of Das sir, we can close the webinar. Thank you.